Hi, I'm Phil, and I have quite a story for you. It starts off sad, but it ends happy, and most importantly, it contains a valuable lesson and will hopefully provide some useful information for drone pilots. There are two parts to this video. First is a recounting of a droning disaster resulting in the loss of my drone. This includes video from the drone and the controller. The second part shows how I, with greatly appreciated help from others, was able to find and recover my lost drone, even though I was unable to use the Find My Drone feature of my drone controller app. So if you've flown a drone several times, you may have seen a message like this: propellers rotating too fast, along with a message urging you to land and replace the props on a motor. In this case, the message is from my Mavic Mini using the DJI Fly app. This message will probably have a different wording if you're using a different drone or app. Months earlier, the first time I saw this message, I returned immediately. I replaced the props with the appropriate spares, launched, and had a successful flight. This was followed by several more successful flights. Then after a while, the message started cropping up again. So the second time I got the message, I landed and inspected the prop that was being reported. It looked fine, so I launched again and had a good flight with no more warnings. After that, I would get the warning perhaps one time out of every 2 or 3 flights. It would happen shortly after takeoff. I would land, check the props, and launch again with no further messages. Each time I would say to myself, I really should just replace the props. I'll do it when I get home, or maybe tomorrow, or... So it continued until one fateful day in September at Fish Lake on a trip I took to the Yukon to visit my family. I launched beside the lake and got the same propeller warning. I landed, inspected the prop, and took off again. It was a beautiful day. There was a moderate breeze, but nothing that the Mavic Mini couldn't normally handle. I flew out over a lovely marsh surrounding a beautiful stream that emptied into the lake. The first strange thing happened at about 40 seconds into the flight, when the Mini made an odd gyration. It recovered right away, so I thought maybe a sudden gust of wind had twisted the drone, which had then righted itself. It was on my way back when things, as they like to say in jolly old England, went pear-shaped. Without warning, my drone started sliding to the left and backwards while descending. I switched to sport mode and I applied full throttle both upwards and forward, but all my efforts were in vain. As my drone descended inexorably, it desperately bucked and twisted as if experiencing agonizing throes of death. I could only watch the inevitable unfolding before my eyes, helpless to do anything about it. Here are the final seconds of the flight as seen by me on the controller. To complicate things, the signal was lost between the drone and the controller, and this led me to think I could not use the Find My Drone feature of the DJI Fly app. In retrospect, I'm not sure whether Find My Drone would have used the last known location of my drone. If you know one way or the other, perhaps you could post a comment. Now, I'm pretty sure I know what happened. It was the left rear prop that reported the problem. If that prop failed, there would be no lift on that corner of the drone. So the props next to the bad one would provide lift. Now any spinning on the right front prop would provide lift there. So with no lift from the opposing prop, the right front of the drone would tilt up, causing the drone to tip back and to the left and just helplessly slide left, back, and down toward the earth. After the crash, I did make some effort to find the drone. I reviewed the controller video over and over. I noted a white boulder by the side of the stream and thought that I could hike to it and then cross the flats to search. I walked into the marsh at the mouth of the stream, but even though the marsh looks like a nice flat field, the grasses and shrubs were rooted in muskeg. That's standing water, peat, and muck. Each of my steps would sink past my ankles. I couldn't get more than about 50 meters into the swamp before I realized that my search would be fruitless. As I drove away from the lake, I came to grips with the knowledge that my lovely drone was gone. This was especially sad since I had just arrived in the Yukon and I had hoped to make many more spectacular flights before heading back home. Now, I wasn't alone on this trip to the Yukon. I was traveling with my wife, and for a few days we were staying with family members. I can't tell you much about them because, for some reason, none of these people are especially eager to be identified on social media. But after the disaster, we drove back to our family members' home. On the drive, I remembered that I could download flight data from my mobile device, and I wondered whether I might be able to use that data to go back and retrieve my drone. When I got back to the house, I got online and found out that I could find the flight data on my mobile device. Now, please note that what I'm going to show you now applies only to the Mavic Mini, using the version of DJI Fly that I have installed right now on an Android device. So with that in mind, I was able to find the flight data in the DJI DJI.go.v5 flight record folder. I could find the file I was looking for because the date and time of the flight are part of the file name. So I copied the file onto my Windows PC. I tried viewing the contents of the file, but it's just gobbledygook to humans. That's because the file has to be processed into a format that you or I could understand. Fortunately, there is software and there are websites that can process these files. In my case, I went to www.phantomhelp/logviewer/upload, and I scrolled down to upload your flight log. I checked the box, I selected the file from my PC, and I uploaded the log. After a few seconds, the website displayed a URL, or web address. I opened a new tab in my web browser and pasted in the URL. This displayed some interesting information about the flight, but nothing showing the exact coordinates where the flight ended. To get more information, I clicked the link to download a verbose file in CSV format. I got a warning about the file not being secure, but since my flight data isn't exactly a secret, I selected Keep. I was then able to access the file in my PC's standard downloads folder. The downloaded file was in a compressed .zip format. I double-clicked it to get to the CSV file. Now, CSV files can be viewed in Microsoft Excel. So when I double-clicked the CSV file, its contents were displayed in Excel. Now I had the information I needed to try to locate my drone. When the Mavic Mini is in flight, an information record is transmitted from the drone 10 times every second. And there are about 200 items of information in each record. I was interested in only two pieces of information, latitude and longitude. I scrolled down to the end of the spreadsheet, to the final record sent by the drone. The final coordinates from the drone showed a latitude of 60.65196 and a longitude of -135.24454. I used my browser to launch Google Maps and I entered the coordinates. This put a pin in the exact location. I switched to satellite view. Now it was easy to see that a line of bushes and small trees snakes its way along the east side of the marsh, and that's where the flight appeared to have terminated. I also saw the white boulder that I had noted earlier. Further to the east is terrain that looked like a higher, drier, treed area. I discussed the situation with our family member who loves hiking and camping and just happens to have a Garmin InReach handheld GPS unit. We decided to enter the coordinates into the Garmin, put on gumboots, and head back to the marsh. Based on the satellite image on Google Maps, we parked by the treed area and walked along a cut line through the trees. When the Garmin showed that we were level with the location, we turned left and headed directly west. We could see the line of vegetation in the marsh. The last 50 meters or so was very swampy, but the gumboots got us through. We reached the line of trees and bushes, and as we walked, we watched the distance to the target counting down. Now I wish that I'd had the presence of mind to record some video of our walk through the trees in the marsh, but I did record the following clips as soon as we were within a few meters of the target. Okay, so we've come to where we think the GPS coordinates are, and we're looking all through this bog. We're right by the tree line. Don't hold out much hope, but maybe we'll find it. I don't know. Unbelievable! Here it is. Right here in this bush. Wow, that is amazing. What a relief. So there we have our happy ending. Of course, the first thing I did when I got back to the house is replace those defective props. I was also able to retrieve the high quality video from the drone. So here's what the final moments of the flight looked like as directly recorded to the drone's memory card. I'm glad to report that my drone worked perfectly after that, and I was able to make several more spectacular flights on my trip. I do want to thank my family members who assisted in the recovery of my drone. My deepest gratitude to SB and VC. I still owe you guys big time. Finally, the moral of the story, and it's a simple one. If you get a message suggesting a problem with the propeller, return to home, land, and replace it before you launch again. No exceptions. So please and thank you. Please learn from the error of my ways. And thank you so much for watching.